What do you call a club that in 11 years hasn't touched a single Premier League title, has burned through 7 managers, currently sits 15th in the table and owes over $1 billion in debt? Apparently, you call them the biggest club in the world. May 19th, 2013. Sir Alex Ferguson lifts his 13th Premier League title. But his final words? I want you to back your new manager. 12 years later, they backed 7 from champions to a banter club overnight. But the craziest part, they've been in this crisis for over a decade and nothing has collapsed. Barcelona lost Messi, spiraled into a 1.3 billion debt and nearly disappeared from elite football. But United, they're still spending like kings, still stealing Europe's best talents. They're still everywhere. It's almost like this club is too big to fall. The thing about Manchester United is failure doesn't finish them. It just restarts their cycle. Most clubs normally fade after a decade in the dark, but United, they come back stronger, louder, and richer every time, and no proof hits harder than 1958. The Munich Air Disaster killed 23 people, including 8 players. It didn't just damage them, it gutted their heart. These weren't ordinary players. These were the 21-year-olds built from the academy. Fast, technical, fearless, everything English football wasn't at the time. They'd won 3 league titles in 5 years. They were the first English club to play in the European Cup. And just weeks after losing half of their squad, United played the semi-final against Real Madrid, the greatest team in the world. Real's president, Santiago Bernabeu, wanted the Champions League trophy to be given to them, saying United were the moral winners. He even staged friendlies to help them financially. That respect still lives. But what came next, nobody could have predicted. 10 years later, United win the European Cup. And who lifted the trophy? Bobby Charlton, who crawled from the wreckage. Manager Sir Matt Busby. Together, they rebuilt it from nothing and made United the first English club to ever conquer Europe. Fast forward 20 years and it happens again. By 1986, United had no league title in 19 years. In 1974, they were relegated. The club was falling apart. Then, Sir Alex Ferguson took over. He nearly got sacked in 89, only survived because of 1 FA Cup win against Forest. And after that, 13 Premier League titles, 2 Champions League, and the first treble in English football history. And a club that became the most hated, the most watched, and the most global name in football. Again, a fall becomes domination. And it makes you think, maybe the reason United haven't bounced back is because they haven't fallen far enough. In 1958, they lost lives. In 1974, they were relegated. Those moments were rock bottom, and they triggered rebirth. This era, they're sitting 15th in the table, but top of the table for wages. They're still somehow signing players like Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo, players that should be playing Champions League football, not joining a club that might get relegated next year. They still come because the myth still sells. Sir Alex didn't just build a dynasty, he built a global machine that feeds itself. But even machines can break. And right now, United are failing on both fronts. They're not only on the pitch, and they're even worse off the pitch. And just because they've survived everything thrown at them so far doesn't make them immortal. It makes them stubborn, resilient. But I feel like this team's overdoing it. The difference is simple. The teams that came before them were united by tragedy, by loss, by legacy. This team is missing the only thing you cannot buy: a winning culture. So, how do things actually change? The answer isn't complicated. They've always had the money, the reach. What they didn't have was a vision. For a decade, businessmen ran a football club, bankers in charge of footballing strategy. But now that's shifting. Since INEOS have come in, it's looked different. No more panic buys, no more chasing wasp names for clicks. Now, they're pulling off things that shouldn't be possible for a club in their position. They beat Real Madrid to Leny Yoro, one of the best young defenders in the world. And this time, it's not just about who they're signing, it's who's staying the ship. And it's simple. This isn't like reinventing the wheel. This is just what a well-run football club looks like. And maybe for the first time in a very long time, United don't need a disaster to restart their cycle because the foundation, the fans, the reach was never the problem. It was the leadership, and finally, they might have actually got it right. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the media. If United have fallen so badly, why does every news outlet on the planet still track their every move? Which brings us to the obvious reason why they get so much coverage. The fans. Mid-table Manchester United get more views, more clicks than any club on earth. United could finish 20th next season and they'd still sell out in the United States, Asia, Australia, or even the moon. Because when you've spent a century building a myth, it doesn't die overnight or even over a decade. So the answer to my question in the intro is, how can you still call a club with no league title in 12 years and £1 billion in debt the biggest club in the world? The answer's simple. The fans.